Hey guys, Zach here, and today I'm going to be turning this terrarium from a barren wasteland into a vibrant jungle. Before we get into it, if you guys could subscribe, it does greatly help the channel. With that out of the way, let's get into it. First things first, I just got to take this apart. So all I'm going to do is first just start by taking out all of these air plants. I've got some Spanish moss, another air plant, and a couple other air plants in here. And then any other plants that were in here I've already taken out. Except I think there's some creeping ivy in the back. Once I get that out, I'm going to take out all of the rock and the wood, and then the background is spray foamed on, so I'm going to take that all off just with a razor scraper, just scrape it along and it'll come off easy enough. So the tank is completely cleaned out. As you can see, there's just some driftwood as well as some corkbark in there right now, and the tank is on the ground. Now I'm doing this for a couple different reasons. One, it's just easier to work here and this is where I have space. But two, what this is going to allow me to do is lay in all the hardscape like this, and then I can take spray foam, basically lock it in place, and it's going to stay up. So I don't have to support this. Like if I had this standing up, I would have to support this piece of wood with something underneath it to hold it up while I spray foamed it and secured it in place. On the ground like this lets me spray foam in place like that, and this will just sit there floating after it's dry. Another thing I'm going to do with this scape, which I regretted not doing in the last terrarium that I had in this tank, was using some of this corkbark to try and make little planters. So just using the bark here, foaming it into place, and then filling behind it with dirt, and it's going to let me put the plants up there and create a bunch of different levels that the plants are at. So let me kind of get this organized and get this scape really solidified. Now I've let this all cure, and I've kind of pushed it all in, and I've got the hardscape kind of outlined in this tank now. So what I want to do is I want to do the rest of the background, which I'm going to do very similar to how I did this. I'm just going to shake up some spray foam, basically spray foam between all these little cracks, and then take some dirt and other substrate and just jam it into the spray foam to create a sort of dirted background, and this will look really good, especially if I can really force it in. So let's get that done. All I'm doing here is spraying small sections of the tank with some spray foam and then pushing the dirt into it as hard as I can. This creates a nice 3D background. It is now 24 hours since I did this background. I've let all of the spray foam cure, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. There's so much depth, so much detail to the background, and there's just a whole bunch that I can do with this now. But moving down, you can see that I've left this giant gap in the bottom, and that is for substrate. And all I'm going to do is just use this egg crate, and I've got the window mesh on the back of it. This was in this tank before as a false bottom, but all I'm going to do with this is just basically plop it in, kind of back there, and then I'll tack it in, and this is going to act as a substrate barrier and keep all the dirt back here, and then I will use a piece of like corkbark to hide this. So let me get this in place and let it sort of dry, so it'll probably be about an hour. Now the silicone is kind of dry, not super dry, but it is like tacked in enough that I can work on it. So all I'm going to do is just use a bunch of corkbark and hopefully build up something cohesive here, and it'll hide this substrate barrier. So let me get that together. While this is drying, I figure I might as well talk you guys through the substrate layer that's going in the back here. And I'm going to keep it super simple. I'm going to have my drainage layer, I'm going to have something to separate the drainage layer, and then just some topsoil basically. So for the drainage layer, I've got this stuff here. This is just leca, it's just clay balls, and it's just going to let any excess water drain out of the substrate. And to separate it, I've just got, again, window screen mesh. It works perfectly fine, you can buy it in big rolls. And then just for the actual substrate layer, it's just topsoil and a little bit of sphagnum moss in there, and it's going to be super simple. So let me get that all in. So it's now the next morning, and as you guys can see, this front piece is all done. I've covered up any spots that might have egg crate still showing through. I've used like this rock, I've changed around the stick, and I put in some small patches of moss, and this is just gonna cover up any of the egg crate that was showing through originally, and I think it looks really good, and it just kind of brings the scape forward more as well. And then if you go up, you can see that there's still a little bit of egg crate exposed there, and this is going to be easy enough to cover. I'm just going to cover it with some moss, basically just lay it down on top here so you'll be able to see it kind of peeking over, but it's going to hide all the egg crate and it'll be perfect for that. Other than that, all that's really left is just planting everything, just going up, and I've got a whole assortment of plants that are just kind of around my house right now. So let me go get those and get to planting, and I will show you guys. With the tank complete, I do have to say I am quite happy with how it turned out. I love this jungle look to it with the Spanish moss hanging down and the greenery just on every level that you look at, and there's really no empty space in the tank. There's something going on in every little corner. As for inhabitants of this tank, I didn't show you guys, but I did put in some little springtails. They're just in as kind of a cleanup crew, right? They're going to eat some decaying matter and some mold, just whatever kind of pops up in the tank as it starts to grow in. If you guys do have any inhabitants in mind, please let me know down below in the comments. I will read those and look through those and see which one I agree with and which one I'm interested in. But other than that, that's everything for this video. If you guys have enjoyed, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.